Have you ever felt completely stuck between two extreme arguments? Where it feels like there's absolutely no room for nuance? Yeah, it's a pretty common feeling these days. So, okay, let's dive into a really powerful way to handle all that complexity. It's called the TAN philosophy, and it's all about how to find real intelligence in that messy gray zone.
I mean, just look around. Everywhere you turn, it feels like people are just screaming past each other. You've got tech is going to save humanity on one side, and nature is all that matters on the other. Everyone's just shouting that they're right, and there's just no middle ground. It's it's exhausting, isn't it? And honestly, it doesn't really get us anywhere.
But what if there is another way to approach all this? Well, this is where the TAN philosophy comes in, and it offers this really powerful idea. It suggests that, true intelligence isn't about picking a team and defending it to the death. No, it's about having the courage to explore that huge, complicated, messy space between the extremes. That's where the real thinking actually happens. So that brings us to our first big idea here: intelligence in the gray. And this is way more than just a cool-sounding phrase. It's really a whole new model for thinking. To get it, though, we got to start with a foundation, a really simple but incredibly powerful idea about what it means to be truly smart. Okay, so here's the core rule, the main axiom of this whole thing. It says the smartest person in the room can hold two opposing ideas in their head at the same time. And here's the kicker: without anxiety. That last part is everything. This isn't just about, politely listening to someone else's point. It's about being flexible enough in your own mind to genuinely entertain two conflicting truths at once. It's this deep humility of admitting, hey, maybe I don't have all the answers, and being perfectly okay with that uncertainty. So that sounds great in theory, right? But how do you actually do that in a real conversation when things get heated? Well, that brings us to our next section: the third position framework. This is the how-to part, the playbook for actually applying this philosophy in the real world. And here's the crucial move. Instead of getting sucked into the fight, red versus blue, this versus that, you deliberately take a step back. You elevate your perspective. It's like instead of being one of the pieces on the chessboard, you float up above it to see the whole game. You stop being a soldier for one side, and you become an analyst of the entire system. And this really shows the difference perfectly. On the one hand, you've got our default mode, fighting in the system. That's all about winning the argument, proving you're right, and they're wrong. But on the other hand, you have analyzing the system. And that's about understanding why the argument even exists. It is a complete, fundamental shift in your objective. So how do we actually pull this off? Well, it breaks down into 4 pretty clear steps. First, you just identify the two camps, the two opposing sides. Second, and this is the hardest part, you have to consciously pull yourself out of the emotional gravity of the fight. Third, you get curious. You start asking the bigger questions like, what incentives are at play here? Or what's the history behind this? And finally, step 4, you articulate that new, higher-level view you've uncovered. And honestly, this quote right here, this is the key that unlocks everything. It's like a magic phrase. The moment you say something like this in a heated discussion, I'm less interested in who's right and more interested in what makes you both so sure that you are. It just changes the entire dynamic. It instantly shifts the conversation from a battle of egos to like a collaborative mission to understand the underlying forces at play. You're not there to fight anymore. You're there to figure things out together. All right, so for our final section, let's talk about why doing this is, well, why it's a kind of superpower. Because adopting this approach doesn't just make you a better thinker, it actually changes how other people see you. There's a huge payoff to this. So what is it? Why does thinking this way make you stand out from the crowd? The payoff here is huge. For starters, when you stop fighting and you start analyzing, you immediately become the adult in the room, period. It also signals incredible emotional control. It shows you can't be baited into the drama. Plus, it demonstrates that you're a deep, systemic thinker, that you're seeing the machinery behind the curtain, not just the puppet show. And maybe my favorite part, it showcases a genuine, authentic curiosity, a real desire to find the truth, not just to win an argument. So I'll leave you with a question to chew on. Think about it for a minute. Whether it's at your job, with your family, or just out in the world, what's the biggest red versus blue, us versus them conflict that you keep running into? And more importantly, if you were to step outside of it, if you were to claim that third position, what would the system look like from the gray zone? What would you see then?